Hi, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us tonight at our meeting. We demand clarity and we won't wait. There has been further delays in getting an answer, and students are, rightly angry at this and rightly upset and want their voices to be heard. So, tonight we are going to have a discussion here, and we have a couple of different speakers. First, I want to say that there will be an attendance sheet sent into the comments both on YouTube and Facebook, and we would encourage people to sign that. So we have this Zoom, but we're also streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. But if you do want to participate and add to the conversation, you will have to join via Zoom, and those links are available on Mick's social media in his bio and stuff like that. So tonight, the list of speakers that we have are Emer M from Cancel the Leaving Cert campaign. We have Hannah O'Brien from Student Voice, Student Choice. We have Luke O'Keefe from Reform the Leaving Cert. And we have Ashton, who is a fifth-year Socialist student. And then we'll have Mick Barry come in. So, I don't want to keep you hanging any longer. So, Emer, if you would like to get started, off you go. We'll just have someone unmute you.
Good evening. This is a cry for help. I am falling apart. We, the Leaving Cert students of 2021, are falling apart. Would I be falling apart if we had been given certainty weeks ago? Probably not. I might be struggling a little, but I would not feel the way I feel right now. I feel like I am losing my sanity going around and around in circles asking for clarity and fighting with this campaign. A campaign that really none of us should have ever had to be involved in. But despite this, I will fight tooth and nail with my wonderful peers, sometimes at the expense of ourselves. Right now, we have to call for clarity. We need it. We need it so badly. It is ruining us, our mental health. I am starting to feel like I can't do this anymore. I will keep going. I will keep existing. I will keep being. But I shouldn't have to just exist to get through my Leaving Cert. I should be living. Living despite the mental health I do struggle with. For after all, living is a gift we have all been given by the universe and its ridiculous statistics. And right now, I feel like the government is taking this gift away from so many students with their lack of clarity. No one has the right to take away our existence, so why are they? Why are they stealing it for the sake of a backwards traditional exam? My education is causing me such distress, it tips me over sometimes. Everything else I struggle with is a relatively normal stuff. I try to give myself space over it. But how can I give myself space with education? It is a constant bombardment, and most of the time I have zero solace in my time to myself. It is always there in the background. They say you start living when you stop caring. But how can I stop caring about my own education? What is the government going to do about that? To the members of the Irish government, tell me, what are you going to do? You have a responsibility to protect every citizen as best you can. And right now, you are actively contributing to the mental anguish of thousands of 17 and 18-year-olds. And might I remind you, everyone under 18 is protected legally by the UNCRC. And the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child has asked the Irish government in November 2020 to outline what they are doing to address the adverse effects of COVID-19 and about the Irish government's efforts to reform the Leaving Cert with a view to reduce stress caused to children. I believe I and every other Leaving Cert student in this country can answer the UN ourselves, and we can do it before October of this year. We can do it right now, in fact. The answer is nothing. The Irish government is doing nothing for Leaving Cert students. Imagine we could all go to college stress-free. That sounds nice, doesn't it? No waiting for results and stressing that you might not get the points. Sounds great. Well, this is exactly what open access to third level will be like. You know you will get into college and you will be able to enjoy your summer in whatever way you please. Open access to third level education is a necessity at this point. If it could be promised that the pandemic would be over by June and we could all safely sit our exams, we would still not be able to sit the Leaving Cert due to the amount of lost time in our studies. Now, this cannot be promised. So what does it mean? It means that not only are we not fit to sit exams, it is not safe to sit them either. I personally do not agree with calculated or predicted grades. The predicted grade system is morally unsound, and I would like to clear up the contempt that some students feel towards teachers' unions in their stance of no predicted grades. It is not that teachers do not want to grade us. It is the fact that predicted grades disadvantage and discriminate against even more students than the already twisted system that is the Leaving Cert and points system. It kicks the poor students that cannot afford grinds or do not have a brilliant homeworking environment at home, etc., down the barrel, and it rewards those that attend fee-paying schools for the simple reason that they attend fee-paying schools. This is not a fair system. I would like to remind you all that teachers are very much on our side. They do not want to see any of us disadvantaged, and they want to see us all succeed. Teachers do not actually want us to sit exams either. They know that is not safe. So I say we join forces with teachers and the teachers' unions, and we fight with them for fair and equal open access to third level. As I have said, I do not agree with predicted grades, as it is still a rat race for points. The points competition is abhorrent and corrupt in normal times, but to ask students in a global pandemic who have already lost so much is saddening, and it does not reflect well on all those responsible for it. I would like to point out, however, that if we get predicted grades because the government does not cooperate and give us open access to third level, it is not a failure. It is still very much a victory. A victory because predicted grades will keep people safe and out of exam halls. A victory because if the Leaving Cert is cancelled twice in 2 years, it also proves the point that the Leaving Cert is not necessary nor a suitable exam and should be replaced with something else. Predicted grades are a victory. We need open access to third level education to allow every student their arguably right to their third level education and to allow every student in safely. To achieve open access to third level education, it shouldn't require too much extra funding, to be totally honest. There's money in Ireland to fund open access to third level, no questions asked. It is beneficial to the government to keep people in education, and is certainly cheaper than to keep people on the dole. Government interest rates are essentially zero at the moment. There is no question that Ireland can definitely afford this. The government is just reluctant to invest money into third level education because they don't want to spend money on something they can't make money out of. So we need to tell them to stop this ridiculousness and tell them that our futures are worth investing in. Why, you ask, would the government invest in third level in a pandemic when things have been working fine for years? Well, first off, things have not been fine for years, but that is a topic for a different day. Secondly, it will be highly beneficial to the Irish government, to invest in our futures in third level, because the last time, and well, any time I can think of in history where things went terribly wrong due to recession or famine, young people emigrated by the thousands. If we keep young people in education while there is a recession, which there most certainly is right now, we can keep people in Ireland and in the tax system that will keep Ireland ticking over steadily. For those of you concerned about where we will put all the extra students, as campuses are only so big and to build new buildings would take years, there are empty buildings available to be converted into new tuition spaces and lecture halls. A system of blended learning could be used either, requiring students to attend some lectures on campus and some online, and PH students could be hired as lecturers to address the need for more teaching staff. Dear the Irish government, I will tell you what you can do to help us, so you can report back to the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child that Leaving Certs are okay and their current off-the-charts stress has been mitigated, and conveniently you can do it right now. Cancel the Leaving Cert 2021 and implement open access to third level education, allowing students a place in one of their top choices in third level. Give us clarity on this immediately. Dear teachers and fellow students, keep fighting for what we deserve. Keep raising awareness. Get on radio shows, tweet about the Leaving Cert, email your teachers asking for support for open access to third level. I have support from some of my teachers, and I will be asking others to support soon. Keep the conversation going. We must work together on this. Thank you for listening.
Thanks so much for that, Emer. That was really, really well said. And I think students will get a lot from what you said as well. So thanks so much for that. So next we have Hannah O'Brien. So we'll just get someone to unmute you and you can get going.
Hi, my name is Hannah and I'm from Kildare. I'm from Student Voice, Student Choice. A few of you will be familiar with us. If not, you can find us on Instagram or Twitter. We keep hearing about this persistent wish for a normal Leaving Cert. However, nothing about this past year has been normal. Normal life is a distant memory for 6th years who have spent nearly 20% of their Leaving Cert course in a drastically less efficient remote learning environment. Students cannot and should not be expected to sit normal exams in this pandemic that we are all struggling to deal with. We've missed a total of 4 months during our 2-year course with no certainty of schools reopening. Some students have missed even more time due to stress, counselling, self-isolating and other illnesses. Even if we went back to school full-time tomorrow, it would not make up for the time that we've missed. We don't know when we're going back, and if we do return, we don't know what we're going back to. We're not motivated because we don't know what we're working towards. The government aren't telling us if we have orals or practicals, even more time due to stress, so we can't allocate our time properly. This is putting extra stress on students as we're trying to catch up on missed work from last year, finish this year's course, and prepare for orals and practicals that might not even go ahead. The lockdown puts uncertainty over the Leaving Cert. The lockdown plus uncertainty over the Leaving Cert is a catalyst for spiralling mental health issues. We've missed 81 days out of 183 in 5th year. This is when we were supposed to do our bulk coursework. Most schools had no Zoom calls and barely any interactions in 5th year. Students' mental health is being completely disregarded in order to sit an outdated exam. Some people are at a disadvantage if they have bad Wi-Fi or they don't have the facilities. I'm sure some people here are in this situation or know someone who is. Aside from Wi-Fi issues and home distractions, there are some people with learning difficulties. They are not getting their usual amount of attention that they need from their teachers and SNAs that they would normally get in school. One of our members, Dara Casey, made a short video outlining his struggles with dyslexia, along with 2 other disadvantaged students. The mental health of Leaving Cert students is one of our biggest concerns. We organised a mental health week to help some of 6th years distract themselves from the stress and uncertainty of the situation. It has already been brought to the attention of the government that doctors have been medicating more students than usual in order for them to get through the day. This is not right. In May 2020, 71% of 6th years struggled with anxiety over the Leaving Cert. 35% had insomnia, 28% had depression, and 75% said the stress was becoming too much for them. These mental health problems contributed to 62% of students feeling that their physical health had deteriorated. According to the National Suicide Research Foundation, in 2007 to 2018, 55% of deaths from the age group of 15 to 19 were suicides. We can only imagine how much that figure has gone up in the past 2 years. There are people feeling strains on their mental health that have never experienced it before. They now have to learn to deal with this on top of all the stress of the year. Even before the coronavirus, Ireland's young people have always struggled with the epidemic of mental health because of the Leaving Cert. The Leaving Cert is stressful enough on a normal year without the additional stress of a global pandemic and an indecisive government.
Thanks so much for that, Hannah. That was a great contribution. Really well said yet again. So now I'm going to bring in Luke O'Keefe from Reform the Leaving Cert. So.
Hi. My fellow students, wait, hold on. I just need to do one thing real quick. If you don't mind me, I just need to get my audio set up. My fellow students, as we all know, all of human history has been a history of class struggle, and no such struggle is as self-evident as that of the Leaving Cert. The Leaving Certificate system is one of the most hierarchical, elitist systems ever put in place in this country. Year upon year, students are made to compete with each other, against their will, to secure the highest possible 3-digit number. The fact that these 3 digits define as much about us is a shameful reflection of today's society, in which we are constantly subjected to tests in all walks of life, such as the equally illicit Strives test. In the Leaving Cert, students are based on the quality of their schools, not on their creativity or passion. Instead, they are forced to constantly compare themselves to their peers, constantly under pressure to succeed. Last year's Leaving Cert was a reflection of this gross inequality, with students in many high-performing schools being marked down tremendously. This shows the lack of respect normophobia has for us ordinary students. Many students I have talked to have told me how scared they are at the prospect of being subjected to a barbaric predicted grade system, which has forced so many of friends in years that I know to resit exams. It is for this reason that we must abolish this outdated system, which has been virtually unchanged since the days of the first Irish Free State. This vile capitalist system must be left in the past, along with other imperialist constructs that we find ourselves plaguing our country. Such as a constant homework, which robs students of their autonomy at home. For this reason, we must turn away from predicted grades and written exams and turn instead towards an open access system in which every student gets to go to college. Every student deserves a route to third level education, free from hierarchical discrimination. I shall not have to live in fear that my grade could be reduced based solely on my school's background. I may not know how to drive, I may not be old enough to vote, but I still believe that my voice deserves to be heard. It's high time that we do away with these dastardly imperial systems and do away with the Leaving Cert. Why is my mental health being stolen by a tyrannical government which cares not for my mental health? My future is being pilfered from me right in front of my eyes. How can the Irish government fail to see this? They continue to oppress us with the threat of a shambolic predicted grade system. The students who have suffered throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, people who have lost family members, students who go to private schools would all be thrown under the bus immensely. We gotta cancel it. We gotta do away with the whole system. Open access is feasible. The funding is there. More professors could be hired. More buildings could be built. Should open access go ahead, there will be a massive demand on public housing and student accommodation, more than we have already. Many students have told me that they will be happy to attend class online, or even, if needs be, camp in fields nearby. This shows the tenacity and drive of students and their will to attend education. It is for this reason I believe that we must do away with the Leaving Cert system and turn it instead towards a predicted grade system or even an open access system. Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much for that, Luke. You made some really, really excellent points there in time. A lot of these issues to capitalism, which I would 100% agree with. So next we are bringing Ashlyn in. So Ashlyn, whenever you're ready, Ashlyn is a 5th year Socialist student and she has a few words to say.
Yeah. I'm a 5th year student from Offaly and I'm in the Socialist Party. I joined quite recently, but I've definitely learned a lot that's made sense. Like, sorry, my dogs are barking. But before I joined, there was a lot of inequalities that I'd see, and I wouldn't understand why they were that way, but I knew they were there. And since joining, I've been like, oh, it's because there's people who are hoarding the wealth, and it means that loads of us are suffering because of it. And I know, even without the pandemic, the Leaving Cert is so stressful. We all know adults that are still traumatized from their experience doing the Leaving Cert and studying for the Leaving Cert. And it's no wonder, because we're told from primary school that we're going to sit the Leaving Cert, that it's going to dictate the choices that are given to us for the rest of our lives. And it's an immense amount of pressure to place on children. But now with the pandemic, we've heard so many stories of students' mental and physical health suffering because of the pandemic and because of online learning. And I'm sure many of you in the call tonight have experienced that yourselves. And now, not only are classrooms underfunded from years of austerity, but they're also overcrowded from the same underfunding. And the resources we've been given to fight the virus, to fight COVID-19, have been in short supply of low quality because the government haven't wanted to invest in that either. I know in my school, there's been several times where we've run out of wipes to clean our tables, and we've had hand sanitizer recalled because it was like harmful and it was carcinogenic. And it's no wonder that so many students are now suffering with their mental health and suffering with mental health issues. And it's also no wonder that the prescription of anti-anxiety and antidepressant drugs have absolutely soared amongst sixth-year students, to the point where teenagers that had no previous symptoms of mental health issues before now have such serious symptoms that they require medication. And the government knows this, and the government sees it. They've seen all the emails, they've seen all the Twitter storms, but they're still choosing to prolong the suffering of students by drawing out the decision on the Leaving Cert. And not only are they making 6 years suffer, but they're making 5th years suffer, they're making TYs suffer, they're making 3rd years suffer, they're making teachers suffer, because the teachers, they have to go to their students and say, well, I don't know what you're supposed to do. They have to just, I know a lot of you have teachers that you don't like, but teachers do want what's best for you for the most part. And like, they are on your side. And I know a lot of people have been angry about ASDI and about how ASDI is opposed to predicted grading. But Sandra, who was in the meeting a while ago, some of you might remember her, she has made very clear that the reason ASDI is opposed to predicted grading is because they know they can't get open access. They think they can't, at least, because they know the government is going to act in its own self-interests. And the government has, on so many occasions, used these like inequalities and these inequalities between different groups to set them against each other rather than the government. For example, like, we have the huge divide between students that go to fee-paying schools and students that go to non-fee-paying schools and DESH schools. But those aren't enemies, those aren't two separate camps. But they're pitted against each other. I know at a previous meeting as well, one student said that she felt that under predicted grading, fee-paying schools have been downgraded and that DESH schools have gotten higher grades than usual. But I want to suggest that what really happened was the inverse of that, and it wasn't that predicted grading favoured disadvantaged schools, but for last year, for possibly the first time ever, the odds weren't stacked against disadvantaged schools because they were being marked by their own teachers. The teachers knew them and could say, this student is very bright, this student deserves to go to college, as every student deserves to go to college. And you may say, well, the Leaving Cert is marked anonymously, how can someone be disadvantaged in it? But everything you write and say in the Leaving Cert exams and in the orals is indicative of who you are and how well you know the stuff, how well you've been taught, which is inarguably linked to class and to the quality of your education. And I'm not saying that someone who goes to fee-paying schools hates the working class, or that they're kicking us so that they can get further. But like, that's what the system has done. It's pitted us against each other so that if you want to get ahead in the Irish education system, if you want to go to college, you need to do better than other people. You need to fuck them over, basically. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say fuck, but sorry. But like, I know if I were able to go to a private school, I would, because I would know it would get me into a higher course. But it shouldn't be the way where you have to go to certain schools to get a quality education. Like, education's a human right. We should all be getting quality educations. You shouldn't have to pay thousands of euros in Ireland to get good education and to go to college. And we need and we can have open access to third level. It's achievable, and it would benefit society in so many ways. A lot of people on all sides of the Leaving Cert debate have made the point that with open access, loads of people would want to apply to courses like medicine and like law and all the difficult courses to get into. But that's not a bad thing. Our country needs more doctors. It needs more teachers. It needs more lawyers. It needs more people in every single career. So how can we say, oh well, there's just not enough places when there is the jobs? Like, it's they when people immigrate into Ireland to take those jobs, then the government then scapegoats them as well, and they say, oh well, that's because they wanted to steal the job or whatever, and then the people who wanted to go to college and could have filled those roles were like, just they never got that opportunity. And we need to be clear that the government does have the means to improve the education system, but investing in our schools in the way that we need to does not act in their interest in any way. And it will never be in their interest as long as this country remains a capitalist one. If the Irish government remains as it is, it will always value hoarding our money, our taxes, and not investing in public facilities like healthcare and mental health services, which obviously would benefit 60 students right now and everyone, public transport, affordable housing, and the environment. And I think I speak for the entirety of the Socialist Party when I say we support students' opposition to the crooked system we're forced into. We support the interests of the Leaving Cert students, and we believe that the only way to build a better education system in Ireland is to put more funding into second level, to put more funding into the third level, and to create an open access system that benefits everyone. Obviously, if predictive grades or choice is won, it'll be undermining the Leaving Cert as we know it, and it will be a victory for students. But more can be won. So much more can be won. And I beg you, as young people, to stay active politically, to educate yourself in the politics that schools don't teach you, and to continue to fight against inequality in education and in every sector in society, and against racism, sexism, and all forms of oppression.
Thanks so much for that, Aisling. That was a really good explanation of, the way the government pits us against each other, and it's constantly make us fighting over these scarcity of resources when there is, there's not scarcity of resources. It's just not allocating money to these services that we need. And I think I made a point at the meeting last time that, this classism also follows people all throughout their life. It's not just, in college that people from more affluent areas or backgrounds get on better. There was a report that I referenced that immediately people from affluent backgrounds go on to earn 30% more than someone who's from a disadvantaged background who has the same qualification as them, So I know students were really engaging with that when I said it, and are against that. They don't want to be pitted against their friends or their classmates. They want everyone to have this equal access and a level playing field or whatever. So yeah, I'm going to bring Mick in now, and again I will remind people that there is an attendance sheet that's going around in the comment section, and I would urge you to sign that. And if you want to come in on the discussion, please let me know. So this is for the people in the Zoom. You can only contribute if you're in the Zoom, and you can access Zoom through the links in Mick's bio and on Facebook, etc. So yeah, DM me so I can get a list together. And yeah, Mick, if you are ready, I'll just get you unmuted and you can speak.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. So How are you doing? I have to say now, I'm bowled over with the speeches so far, but I'll do my best here. Okay, so the first point that I want to make here is to offer my congratulations to the students and to each and every one of you, because it's important at this meeting tonight that we register a couple of points. It's important that we register that you have forced Sinn Féin to change their position on the Leaving Cert. You've forced the Labour Party to change their position on the Leaving Cert. And now, your biggest scalp yet, you've forced the government to change their position on the Leaving Cert. Because it's not so very long ago that Norma Foley and her merry men were saying, you know, it's a traditional Leaving Cert or nothing. Take it or leave it. And you have forced them to change their tune, because last Friday they said there will be a choice. It'll be a choice between the Leaving Cert and some other alternative option, option B. Now, we don't know what that is yet, which means that the campaign must go on. It's not over the line yet. And it's a scandal, actually, isn't it, that the government have forced yourselves and your friends and your classmates and 61,000 people to wait again, probably even to wait into next week for the news on what is going to be offered to you. And I think the speakers have explained better than I could about the effect that that has, the anguish of the students, the mental health pressures on the Leaving Cert. So that's a scandal. So what is option B going to look like? I think they will look at a number of alternatives. So I'll just outline what they might be. I think the first option that they will look at is the idea of saying you've got a choice between doing calculated grades or your Leaving Cert exams. And basically they'll say you have to choose now. So put your name down for the Leaving Cert or put your name down for the calculated grades. It's one or the other, decide now. I think that's the first option they will look at. I think the second option they'll look at is to say you'll have your calculated grades before the Leaving Cert. And after you get your calculated grades, you decide whether you want to take them, walk away and say thank you very much, or whether you want to say, I'm not really too thrilled about that. I'm going to sit the Leaving Cert in any case. I think that is probably the option that most students would support at the moment. I also think it might be the least likely one to happen, although it is still a possibility. And the third option would be that they would say, yeah, you can do your calculated grades before the Leaving Cert, but we won't tell you what they are. Then, if you want to sit the Leaving Cert, you sit the Leaving Cert. And after the Leaving Cert, we'll tell you what your calculated grade is, what your Leaving Cert grade is, and you can pick which one you want in terms of the CAO. Okay? So one of the things that I would like to do tonight is to get the feedback from the students as to what do you think of those three options. Okay? Choose between the two now. Get your calculated grade before. If you're not happy, then you can do the exam, or you get your both results after the exams and then you choose. I want to hear students' feedback from that, and if people want to start posting in the link or the message board as to what you think on that, I'm very interested to hear what students think about the three options that I think that they're looking at. I think you need to keep the pressure on. Keep the pressure on the government on this issue. And I think, you've had a number of storms where you've trended on Twitter. I know you've done a lot of them, but I think you have to go again. And I would say maybe use tomorrow, Wednesday, to prepare the ground, and then go again big time on Thursday. Maybe do something a little bit different this time. Tweet away and do it on Twitter, but maybe make the main focus this time Instagram, and have your hashtags worked out. You can work that out in the discussion, and make it a big thing on Instagram on Thursday. You can tag Norma Foley, Michal Martin, Leo Varadkar, Eamon Ryan, all the top politicians in the government in relation to this. The final point that I would want to make, and it's come up a bit in the discussion, is I think it is completely wrong that the government would force students to compete against each other after going through what you've gone through with the pandemic, compete against each other for places in third level next year. And by the way, whether they would have a traditional Leaving Cert that they're backing away from now, or calculated grades, it still pits students against each other in a competition for a limited number of places. We saw that 80,000 people applied on the CAO for third level. So they want a situation where there will be winners, there will be losers, there's people who get in, people who don't get in, and they're forcing you to compete against each other for those places. And the way to cut across that, as a number of speakers have said, is through an open access policy, where the government invests in third level education. There's huge wealth in this country. There's 17 billionaires in this country, and yet the government won't even tolerate a debate on a wealth tax to take place. So you need to go after that wealth, invest it in third level, to the point where every Leaving Cert 2021 student can be offered a place if they want a place, and there is open access. And by the way, if the Leaving Cert was, I know a couple of people, 1,000 people did it, but it was effectively cancelled last year. And if it's not a traditional Leaving Cert forced on everyone this year, the Leaving Cert has then been weakened. And I think there needs to be a push, and I think fifth years can play an important role in this now, to say, look, scrap the Leaving Cert. It's wrong in a whole number of different ways. It's wrong with the amount of stress that it piles on people, even when there isn't a pandemic. It's wrong because instead of, real, genuine learning, it forces people to learn things off by heart. Rote learning, but that's not real education. And last but not least, it acts as a filter to decide who gets in, who doesn't get in. Everyone should get in who wants to get in. Education is a right, and I think this is an issue that we need to start talking about a lot more. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Thanks so much for that, Mick. So, yeah, if there's people that want to come in on some of the points that Mick raised there and some of the questions about the options at the Leaving Cert, you can leave your opinion in the comments as well on YouTube and Facebook, and, we'll be monitoring them, and we'll be listening to what you have to say. But if you do want to come in on this discussion on Zoom, if you can please direct message me and let me know. I only have one name so far. So I'm going to bring them in. So if someone can unmute Emily O'Shea, that would be great.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Brilliant. So my name is Emily O'Shea, and I'm from Cancel the Leaving Cert campaign. And what I really want to bring up in this discussion is Norma Foley's one of her most favourite lines at this stage: next week, next week, next week. That's what we're being pushed every week. We were told last week that we were getting a decision today. We were told Tuesday you're getting a decision, but instead she comes out with an announcement that didn't have any content in it on Friday. She didn't say the word choice. She said an alternative non-examination method that runs concurrently. She did not say choice. So first of all, that leaves the hybrid model still up in play. So first of all, I want kind of to let people know that we don't have the choice yet. So that's why the fight needs to go on. We need to keep pushing. We really need to keep pushing. We have the most power when we are outside of school. If once we're back in school, we don't have the same voice, we don't have the same argument. Because when we're outside of school, we can say, we're still outside of school, we're still outside of school, we're still outside of school, you're not getting us back in. Well, that's why Micheál Martin has come out today to say schools, along with construction, are going to be reevaluated before everything else in level 5 lockdown to go back earlier, which is awful. Because if nothing else can go back, why can schools go back? So I think these are points that they're the little hidden points that are coming out from the government. They're trying to get 60 students back in, and then they can't fight as much. They can't voice their opinions. We can't hold Twitter storms at 11 o'clock on a school day if we're in school, can we? It's their little ways of trying to chip away at our campaign, and we need to try to keep it strong. And we've been short numbers the last while, and I really, this is kind of a call for like any student to get involved. 6th year, 5th year, 4th year, 3rd year, 2nd year, 1st year. You are all going to be affected by this pandemic, but by the time you guys get to 6th year, you will be affected by the Leaving Cert as well. And the Leaving Cert is not just about the class of 2021. It's about the class of 2022. It's about the class of 2023. It's about an unfair model, an unfair examination that pits us against each other and causes competition. So I really urge people to try get involved with the campaign as much as possible, and especially on those social media storms, because we have strength in numbers, and we have seen that from the days. I think the first social media storm, we had over 25,000 tweets under a hashtag. Now we're struggling to get 3,000. So we need to get those voices back, and I think that's really important for people to hear and to spread that message. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Emily. So Emer said that they would like to come in again. Should be unmuted now. Can we get someone to unmute Emer, please?
Yeah, it's good now.
Off we go.
I just kind of want to come in on what Emily was saying there, and that we do need to get 5th years involved, because particularly 5th years, but any year really, 3rd years as well, and LCAs. But 5th years are where we were last year, and to be honest with you, when I was there last year, I was sort of like, not too worried about it. But you know what? It gets so much worse, and we need to be fighting for them too. And I think we need to actually bring the campaign in that direction, that we're going for the entirety every year, our year and every year after us. We need to do something about it, because the Leaving Cert is not suitable, and it hasn't been suitable for years. And I think this is our chance. This is our chance to get the government to do something about it now, rather than 10 years down the road when they say finally, oh well, maybe we'll reform it. So I think we should start trying to contact 5th years and other years in our school and see would they be interested, and say that we do support them, because we were there last year. We know what it's like, and we know what it's like now, and we don't want them to go through this as well. So I think we should start actually trying to get them involved and asking, do they want to be, because we will support them. That's all I really want to say for now.
Thank you for that, Emer. So next I have Catherine Burns.
I think if you're pushing for open access, a big thing about it is try to educate students on what it is, because currently they don't understand the system of the fact that you can't get into every course. You have to take HPAT to become a doctor, and there's some courses that are limited, but overall the kind of lower points and more are kind of on offer. I think another thing though that is being said but not really dealt with is mental health at the moment of a lot of teenagers. And I think from my past experience exam, they have been terrible. When I was in 3rd year, I was put on a list as long as my arm of different tablets to try to calm me down constantly, which made me worse because then I couldn't concentrate. And this year, as I didn't want to go back on that stuff, I just kind of bit the bullet, and it's been terrible on me. But I just don't think that's the right way to go for me. But I can imagine the effect it has on other students. Because I remember being drowsy, and now they're in a situation of they're trying to study, stay awake during online classes, and they are like throwing pills down their throat, and that shouldn't be how a student is. Education shouldn't promote the use of tablets, because then the problem is what happens when they get older and they come to a frustrating point in their life. Will that then cause more dependency on medication through their adult life? And I think the problem with then anything to do outside of open access is you think that it's not just you. You're thinking about this is a country full of teenagers who have such unique circumstances that something like predictive grades or the Leaving Cert at this point cannot help everyone. And there's going to be so many students who have been at a more disadvantage than you have been. And I think it's unfair to say, well, it suits me, so I won't think about everyone else. I'll think about, well, I'm a great student. I have had constant great grades, but what about those who've had family members sick at home? They can't go to classes. Some teachers, I know my friend who lives very far from school, couldn't get into school every day. Teachers refusing to do online classes for her specifically. She went down grades in maths, even though she's a brilliant student. And imagine students who have sick family and they couldn't attend classes. Now the online's happened and they have internet issues, and then they'll be told they might go back to school. I think it's a very unfair system, more now than ever. That's all I have to say.
Thanks so much for that, Catherine. So if anyone else would like to come in, can you please DM me? But while we're waiting, I'm going to bring Ty in. Ty, if you're ready to contribute.
Thanks, Leah. And yeah, I think it's been another really good discussion. So just for disclosure, I'm from the Socialist Party. I'm not a sixth year myself, but I've been to all the meetings pretty much, and I just wanted to come in on why I personally think that open access to third level is the best option for students at this moment. So at one of the first meetings, I remember that there was like a Leaving Cert student who came in and made the point that I think everybody, kind of generally agrees with, that the Leaving Cert exams themselves are an outdated system, that they don't actually contribute to developing students. They're not actually conducive to students learning. And he would have made the point that he thinks that this year's class, because of the position that they're in, is capable of striking a blow against the Leaving Cert to have it permanently canceled, which is a point that I would generally agree with. I know that we already know a lot of this, but just to sort of repeat, the Leaving Cert system is not designed for, to prepare students for third level. It's literally just a test of memorization that is used to prevent students from moving on to third level, because the number of students who want to go on and receive a third level education outnumbers the amount of places the government's willing to fund. It doesn't matter if one year's class is exceptional and an outstanding number of students are clearly capable of moving on to third level. The curve just gets adjusted, and those students who, in a different year may have been able to go on get barred from attending third level. And to me, that's, at its core, just a rotten system. Students are pitted against each other in this competition for the limited number of spots. And I don't think I even have to go into this too much, that it's obvious that every student isn't placed on a level playing field. If you go to an underfunded school, if you can't afford grinds, if you don't have access to internet at home or access to a computer, you're immediately placed at an incredible disadvantage compared to students who have access to all these things. And because of that, I think that the only fair solution is to increase the funding of education across the board and provide open access to third level. And I saw somebody in the chat, raise questions about third level. And I know I've been seeing a lot on social media and stuff, people not, understanding what exactly open access to third level could look like, or if it's even possible. Firstly, I would point out that, at this current moment, Ireland ranks second in the EU in terms of GDP per capita. But simultaneously, Ireland ranks lowest in the EU for funding for education as a percentage of GDP. I think Mick raised as well that the wealth of billionaires in Ireland, just during the COVID pandemic alone, has increased by something like 3.3 billion. And to put this into perspective, that amount that the billionaires have literally gained just in the short period of time is 10 times the amount that would be needed to vaccinate everybody in this country. It's an insane amount of money. Also, like as somebody who went to college here myself, I can attest to like witnessing there are so many postgraduates who currently run tutorials and run smaller lectures and things like that, as well as part-time lecturers, people who are literally looking to be put on a full-term contract, but are denied so because the funding isn't there for them to be able to receive that contract. This would instantly, be able to vastly expand the amount of places in third level, and I think would be able to, reach the 80,000 people who applied to the CAO. So I don't think that like anybody can reasonably argue in that case that the resources don't exist for this major expansion into third level. I'll just leave it there, but I want to mention as well, it's gone around in the chat earlier, but just for anybody who's interested in a Socialist Party meeting, there's going to be a meeting on capitalism and education, where maybe we can go more into like the inequalities that students from working class and disadvantaged backgrounds face in the education system here. I think somebody can send the link around in the chat, but I just wanted to make note of that before I sign off. Thanks, everybody. And this campaign's really been inspiring to watch.
Thanks so much for that, Ty. And yeah, that link should be sent around. It'll be in the chat option. So if you're interested in further discussing those ideas, I would encourage you to come to that discussion. So I don't have any more names at the moment. I actually do have a name, that's a lie. So Miriam, if you would like to come in, and then if there's any more students, if there's any questions, what's your opinion on the three options, your ideas for social media. I see some people are putting their ideas in the comments, and it's great that they're using the chat option, but it would be great if someone could speak up on that as well. Right, so we have Miriam and then we have Curtis. So off you go, Miriam.
Sorry. Hi. So I just wanted to say, been very inspiring meeting. Everyone has played like a tremendous role, like in the past few weeks, few months, in terms of like organizing pressure on the government and really like achieving, a situation where like, yes, obviously like the change that is demanded has not been achieved yet, but the pressure is obviously visible, and the government has started considering different options, which obviously is something that like students should really recognize the role that they've played in making this happen. And that wouldn't have happened if the student opposition hadn't, started organizing. And I think that's important to say. I don't think that I need to repeat points about like the impact that the pandemic, like just generally, I think in 2019, there was a survey that was done that showed that like 75% of Leaving Cert students experienced extreme stress because of the Leaving Cert system. And that was before the pandemic. So I can't even imagine the situation of the mental health, like during the pandemic, when like you're literally witnessing like a global, pandemic, where like obviously like climate change is still at the back of most of our minds, where like, loads of things are happening at home. People are like forced into lockdown, etc. And people are like cut, from seeing people, but also cut from their education and stuff like that. So obviously huge impact on people's mental health, on education, and also like the fact that many people talked about the inequality of the education system, how like, people who have the means, have more access to like grinds, have more access to like devices, to like better investment in the school, so they can like, aim at getting better points at the Leaving Cert system, and therefore have more chances to get whatever they want in college. And so this pandemic has really exposed the inequality of the education system and the issues with the Leaving Cert. And because of that, I think, and I might be wrong, but it'd be good to hear people that come back on this and kind of comment about it. But I think that there is a general understanding and agreement that opening third level is necessary to end this horrendous rat race that students are forced to take. Even during the pandemic, up until recently, the government wasn't looking at alternatives, because they would rather protect tradition. They would rather protect the status quo. They would rather protect their profit that they invest in like other useless things like the greyhound and horse racing industry, than like, protect our future educations and investing in third level and ending the horrible Leaving Cert system. And so I think that like it really shows, that like the necessity for us to like really organize from below, to have students, you know, continuing to join the campaign, to come to more meetings, to figure out, you know, what are the best ways to put pressure in the coming days, in the coming weeks, to ensure that like we get clarity now. Because I think what Emily was saying is very important, that Norma Fully keeps saying next week, but it's like, we're not going to wait anymore. We need a decision to be made now, because it's just not bearable anymore on our mental health. So that's the first point. And then the second point is that like we need to make sure that whatever decision is made is in the best interest of students. And I think everyone agrees that obviously predictive grading would be a victory, because it would be the second year in a row that the Leaving Cert is being cancelled, that we show that actually this system is like archaic and not sustainable, and not good in any way. But you know, we could also like start raising further demands in terms of like what is actually in the interest of young people. It's opening third access, that there shouldn't be competition to enter like to enter college generally, and that like perhaps everyone could access, you know, general science or general arts or general like different types of degrees, and then have like a test or like some sort of assessment that is done in college to see if they can go into medicine, or if they can go into other fields and stuff like that. And that would be much more equal. And everyone should just have access, which means also like obviously have free access to college, not the huge fees that they're pushing forward, and have like leaving loans for all students and stuff like that. But anyway, I'd be interested in hearing what people are saying. And then on the points that Mick raised about like the type of things that we need to do now, there needs to be pressure increased. And like the Twitter storms are kind of like decreasing in terms of their impact, because the first time we did the Twitter storm, we had 18,000 tweets, and it was like super trending, and it was extremely impactful and important. And obviously we haven't been able to like, you know, reproduce the same thing over the past few weeks. So is there something that we could like organize that would like kind of regain the numbers, and make sure that like it's the last blow, and we're really trying to put extra pressure on the government? And I think the idea of like the idea of Instagram, I agree. Like some people are commenting that like things cannot trend on Instagram. However, the good thing with Instagram is that like you can do like you can really like share like stories where like you tag Norma Fully or the ministers and TDs and stuff like that, or like post graphics, etc. And that would like float them with messages and with like, you know, posts and stories in which they've been tagged, which obviously like would put a lot of pressure on them. But if people think that Twitter is the best option, then people should come back and actually propose, you know, what we're doing. I think some of the hashtags are really, really good in terms of like kind of putting forward open third level more at the forefront in reality at this point in time of the campaign. I think the idea of no clarity, no school, obviously, I don't even think I don't know if there's been any discussions around schools reopening anytime soon. But obviously, like I agree that like if there's no clarity being given, there shouldn't be any school. But I'm not sure about the hashtag, because, you know, there shouldn't be any school if it's not safe to go back in any case. Like, you know what I mean? So anyway, I'm just saying that like I think it would be good to hear ideas of like what could be put, if it's on Instagram, what could be put on Instagram. Could we have a specific graphic with a specific slogan? Could we have specific videos where everyone shares a 30-second story to why they think the Leaving Cert should be cancelled, what their level should be open, etc.? Could we have like a letter that everyone shares on Instagram? Or if it's going to be Twitter, then how can we make the storm, you know, a little bit more impactful than usual, and try and get as much attention? And I agree with Mick that potentially tomorrow on Wednesday should be a day where we really try and build for the storm, so that Thursday is really impactful like the first day, and that this is the last blow that we put in the campaign. So yeah, that's all. I'll leave it there.
Thanks for that, Miriam. And next we have Curtis.
Hello?
Can hear you.
Yep. So I just want to make a few points. The first one is that just as a problem that a lot of students are facing, I think it's quite ironic that my Wi-Fi actually just dropped during this call, and luckily I was able to get back. But I know a lot of students who their Wi-Fi goes down and they can't get it back up, and that's them missing even more valuable time that they need for their studies, and they're losing that, and they live in rural areas, and there's nothing they can do about that. So I think that that's a point that isn't really being addressed. And then to build off of that, our school, the school I attend, is actually a digital school. So we received services. We had to pay for them, but we had services which are like a cross between a laptop and a tablet that we got in first year. So if it wasn't for that, when the pandemic started, I would have had to have done everything off my phone, which I imagine there's some students here who had to do that, and I can't imagine the struggle that the extra stress that would have caused. I honestly don't think that that's being addressed either. The government just seem to think that every student's dealing with it fine, and that there's no issues just because let's say the majority have devices, that it doesn't matter about the few students. And to go back to the point about the Leaving Cert being flawed, back in first year, me and a friend did a project about the education system for SPAG, and we did it about Finland and how it has the best education system in the world. And some interesting things that we found is that Finland has shorter hours than most other schools. They also have, on top of having shorter hours, they give little to no homework, and they only have one standardized exam at the end of their entire first and second level education. So they'd have like an equivalent to the Leaving Cert and no other exams. So I think that showing that when students are less stressed and that when they don't have to compete with each other for points, it shows that we can actually come together, we can get more done. In Finland, they focus on collaboration and not competition, and they actually perform better than any other country, or at least I think it's European countries, in terms of the performance, and also I assume it impacts their mental health quite well. And the most popular job in Finland is actually to become a teacher, because they enjoy their time at school that much. Now, I don't know about other countries, but I know that in Ireland, that's probably very unlikely to be true. And I just think that shows that people are going to be working their whole lives anyway, that if we just kind of drill this mentality in people that they need to be working constantly and they need to be making as much but they need to be as productive as possible, and they need to be doing everything right, and they have to do everything perfectly, that it's such an unhealthy, toxic mindset to put into people for them to be going into their working life and to be going into third level, that it just needs to be gotten rid of entirely. And then to go on about the current situation now with the pandemic, which has obviously highlighted these problems and shown how bad they really are. With predicted grades, me personally, I've been doing, I do quite well academically, so predicted grades is quite convenient for me. I can go, I don't have to worry about, well, at least as far as I know now, I don't have to worry about the virus or anything. I can get predicted grades and probably get the course I want. But a point that came to my attention a week or two ago was someone in my class who, although he's quite smart, he underperforms in class tests. He has other hobbies outside of school, and he knows that he's smart enough that if he puts in the effort, he's able to get like the points he'd need for the Leaving Cert, let's say. So he'd probably wait till about a month before the exam and study and then do great. But the issue arises then with vulnerable students, because let's say, for example, if he was vulnerable, which luckily he's not, but if he was vulnerable, he might not have the choice of sitting the Leaving Cert. So he'd have to choose between doing a Leaving Cert and possibly, if he was vulnerable, getting sick and worst case scenario, dying from it. Or if it was a family member could die. But the government hasn't addressed this at all, which I really don't understand, because if he was vulnerable, he'd have to choose between risking someone's life and not getting into third level because he doesn't prioritize school over everything else. He understands that it's not just your education and it's not just academics that defines you. And for being that like open-minded and understanding that he doesn't have to devote his entire life to that, he's actually now he would actually have been punished if he was vulnerable. And I can imagine that there's at least 1,000, if not more, students in that situation, which I think is ridiculous for the government to put people through. And I don't understand what they expect students like that to do. So the final thing I want to talk about is a strike. I know that it was addressed in the group chat that we have a couple of times, And I'm not sure if Mick's still there or even just anyone here now, what they think of that. I don't know. We were discussing it out Thursday, but that was, of course, before the government decided to push back their decision again. So I'm not sure if Thursday's still open as an option or if we're going to wait till we get a result. But I think definitely striking before we return to school should be a priority. Like if they're trying to force a return to school, we should definitely go against that because they know very little about the new strains.
Thanks for that, Curtis. Yeah, Mick is still here anyway, so he might come back in on some of those points. But before we do that, is there anyone else that wants to come in and, go off any of those points that Curtis said, or, any of their own ideas? What we can do this week? They're all welcome. I think Sophia had a good idea of, maybe doing a collaboration video, and a couple of us had done that a couple of weeks ago. But that could be something that students organise among themselves. They might have, the Cancel Leaving Cert campaign Instagram page as like the kind of meeting point for people, and they can send them in that way and make sure it's a collective effort or add to some of the group chats that we have. So yeah, is there anyone else that would like to contribute, or actually, sorry, I did forget. Emer wanted to come in on a few of the comments there, so I will unmute you. Sorry about that.
Sorry. Right, can you hear me now? Great. I'm gonna come in on what Curtis was saying about the strike. I don't think we should be doing a strike or a boycott this week. I don't think it's strong enough. We definitely don't have enough support. At this point in time, the only time I could see us doing a strike would be if they're trying to bring us back to school too soon, because Curtis is right. The government doesn't know anything about these new strains. No one really knows much about these new strains, and they are more dangerous. So we shouldn't be put in those situations. So I would definitely be of the opinion of cancelling that idea for now, anyways. People keep mentioning mocks, and this is a really big issue because absolutely they should all be cancelled, but that is not what this campaign is for. So for anyone who's having issues with their schools in regards to mocks, they should email their principals, email someone in their school that will be in charge of exams or something, and express your concerns to them. Tell them that it's not suitable and that doing mocks is not a fair situation, especially when there's loads of other schools that have cancelled them already. And go talk directly to your school, because they're the only people that can help you in this situation. This campaign will not help you with that. It's down to your school and your school only. So get in with them and get them to cancel them for you. Last thing I was going to mention was social media storms. I think we should definitely try an Instagram social media storm, and maybe a collaboration of video with other people. So with other groups, like, there's lots of groups on Instagram, so I think if we could get a group video made together and we could share it around, and some people could be doing individual videos, I think that would be a really great idea. And we can definitely tag Norma Foley, Mia Hall Martin, Leo Radker, and all them, and they will notice. Like, there isn't a trending page on Twitter, or on Instagram, but I don't think that'll make a huge difference, because they will be watching it. It will be clear to them, and it will be clear to everyone else on Instagram what's going on. You know what I mean? I think that's all I want to say for now. So, thanks.
Thanks so much, Emer. So, again, I don't have any other names, so I'm going to give people a chance to put their name in the chat if they'd like to come in. So I'll give people a chance to do that. Going once, going twice. There doesn't seem to be anyone that wants to come in. So if that is the case, I'll allow Mick to come back in on some of the points that were made, if he's ready to come back in now. If he just wants to confirm that with me. You're unmuted now, Mick.
Okay, how you doing? So, Look, I'm not going to make a lot of points or try and reply to all the points in the discussion. I'll just make 3 brief points. The first one on the issue of open access, the second one on the issue of strike, and the third one on the issue of social media storm. Okay. So on the issue of open access, I think an interesting thing has happened at the meeting tonight, and that is open access has now gone from being something that was a little bit over on the side and was being talked about a bit into something that's coming more into the center of things, as people are beginning to realize that even if the government are forced to climb down and offer a decent version of a calculated grade, that it's still going to be students in a pandemic competing against each other for a limited number of places in third level. I think the CAO applications have really forced that into people's thinking. And I think that sometime soon, depending on how things pan out with the government this week, but sometime soon, you should consider the idea of having a public meeting online where the main topic is the discussion about open access. And I think that there are a lot of questions that people have about, it's a good idea, but how would it really work? You get down to the nitty gritty on it a little bit. And I think it's really, really interesting, the points that have been raised by Curtis and the points that he raised about the bit of research that he did when he was in first year about the type of open access that they have in Finland and international examples. I think if you have a meeting like that, Curtis, you might consider actually digging up your own notes and speaking at that meeting. I think it would be really, really interesting to hear more about that. So that's all I'm going to say about open access. On the issue of strike, okay, well, let's look at it in a practical way, because you have an idea, which is the idea of a strike or a boycott. But what we need to do is we need to relate that to the reality. So the reality is that there's online classes taking place Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. There's a week midterm break next week. And then either the online classes begin again on Monday the 22nd, or in the meantime, the government tries to force you back on February the 22nd. They're the options, right? Now, I don't think that anyone here is raising a proposal. I could be wrong, and people can clarify. I don't think anyone here is raising a proposal that there should be an attempt to organise a nationwide boycott or a nationwide strike between here and the weekend. I think what is being raised more is the idea that the threat should be raised, right? It's a little bit like the hashtag for the storm the other day, no exams or we protest. It's like, here's a line, and if you step over the line, then this is an option that we have that we can push for. What it would be around needs a little bit more discussion, because Emer has raised the idea of if you do it, it would be if they attempt to push you back too soon before it's safe. The hashtag no clarity, no school kind of points towards the idea that if they try and get you to start off in classes again, either online or in person, by the 22nd of February, when the midterms is over, if there isn't clarity by then, there would be a strike or whatever. So that's not something that you need to decide tonight. I think the idea of a hashtag saying no clarity, no school isn't bad. I think there's merit to it, because it sends a little bit of a warning shot that you're saying you're going to sort this next week. If it isn't sorted next week, then this could really come in onto the agenda after the midterms. And there's no harm then bringing in the issue of health and safety if they try and force you back into the classes. So I think that's a good idea. But I don't think, well, maybe people should clarify. I don't think anyone on the call is arguing that 30 or 35 people on the call here should try and organise a national strike, or in reality a boycott of online classes this week. I don't think that is something that would be a success, to be blunt about it. But I think what can be a success this week, and can be a bridge towards that if it's necessary, is the idea of doing a storm. And I'll finish on this. So I think that a storm is what is called for, but I also think there's a feeling that it needs to be a little bit different. That the storms have been a little bit, same old, same old. So what can be done that's different? One idea that's come up is that it be done at a different time. That makes sense to me. If 1 o'clock is a better idea than 11 o'clock, then why would you go for 11 o'clock and not go for 1 o'clock? So people can comment on that, but 1 o'clock makes sense to me. Arguments have been made in favour of Twitter. The main argument for Twitter is that it trends, and the world sees it, right? The argument against it is that we've done a lot of Twitter storms. Not everyone is in Twitter. Probably more people on Instagram. And okay, you don't trend on Instagram in the same openly public way. Although I think you can find out what are the most popular things on the day if you go digging for it. But you can tag the politicians. And we could put it out there in the morning on my Instagram, for example, what's the tag for Norma Foley, for Leo Varadkar, for Micheál Martin, and so on. And you have the option of doing a video. 30 seconds. My message to Norma Foley. Now, there are certain things you might want to say to Norma Foley, but I'd say leave them off. It needs to be strong. It needs to be hard-hitting, but it can't be, step over the line and be abusive or whatever. But something really strong, really hard-hitting, strong message, that's fine. Go for that. So, what you could do is say you have a social media storm on Thursday that is not at 11 o'clock, it's at 1 o'clock, and it's Twitter and Instagram. If you have both, you do the both. If you have one, you do the one or the other. And see what happens in relation to that. That's basically what, and I think the idea of having people from all the different groups doing short messages tomorrow, maybe centralizing them with Leah or Miriam there, and putting them together into one campaign video. I think that's a really good idea and something that should be done as well. So I'll leave it at that. Lads, I'm going to have to leave the meeting at in about 15 minutes. Now, you might be finished by then. If not, I'll give my apologies and you can tidy up the details yourselves. But I'll stay for the next 10 or 15 minutes of the discussion in any case. Sorry for going on so long.
Thanks, Mick. And, there is already like an LC group that we have on WhatsApp, and there's about 20-something people in it. And I know that not everyone here is in that. And if you would like to be in that, I would recommend signing the attendance sheet, and we could add you into that, and that would be a good way to keep in contact to get videos together, because I know that there's people here who have links with different pages, or know admins of different pages, and we'd be able to spread the message that way. It'd be a lot easier, so does anyone want to maybe comment on what Mick was saying about any of the hashtags and about like disagree? Sorry, I just got a message here. Disagree on hashtags and the social media storm. I think doing both Instagram and Twitter is the right path to go down. And I know that like you are seeming a bit, it wasn't as big as the first time and stuff like that. But as someone who runs who's an admin on a TD social media, like we see everything, and there's no way that Norma Foley doesn't know that all these tweets, that all these tags are coming in. She knows 100%, and she's really aware of the pressure that's being put on her right now. So we do need to keep this up, and I think the idea of social media video is good as well. So I'm going to stop talking. If someone wants to come in, they can, or just let me know. I'm just going to have a look at the chat, sorry. And there's a suggestion that we should be more specific with the storms. So if anyone agrees with that or wants to come in on that point to speak on it, that would be good for all of us to kind of get an idea of what people's ideas are themselves, I'll give a minute for people to send their name in. Emer would like to come back in, so if someone would like to unmute them.
Great. Just in regards to what Mick was saying, I think we should make a decision, and we should make a decision now on whether the storm is going ahead on Thursday at 1 o'clock, and if we're going to do it as both Instagram and Twitter. I think honestly we should just have yes, no in the chat and see if everyone agrees. I don't think we need everyone coming on here and saying yes. And I think we should try and organise in that WhatsApp group if even when there's new people in, we should try and organise a video of some sort, either for open access third level or just in general what students want to say to Norma Foley, that kind of thing. So I'll leave it at that, but we should definitely make a decision soon on whether Thursday will go ahead or not.
Thanks, Emer. Yeah, I think a lot of people will have different ideas, and it'd be good for you to keep in contact with each other. Maybe you come in on this topic, maybe you come in on this topic. So it's a variety of messages being passed on to Norma Foley. I think that would be good. Daniel O'Neill would like to come in. Just let us unmute.
Can you hear me, yeah?
Yeah.
How's it going? I'm Daniel. I'm new to all this and all the rest, but what Emer was saying, like, it is true, like, the letters and all the videos, everything, like, we could do a very good job on them if we had the support from all our classmates and all. And I know, like, I'm in school with Caitlin, and I know myself, like, from the group chats and all, we don't get a whole lot of support, and it's kind of a little bit disheartening. Like, I can see in Caitlin that it's a bit disheartening and all, and like, I would wish people would kind of like step up a bit and just talk about what they feel and all like that. Like, I know, like, my girlfriend, like, she wants to go on to college. Like, I personally don't. I want to go do an apprenticeship, but still, like, I know it is relevant to me with predictive grades and everything, but I do think that it doesn't really affect me a whole lot. But still, I don't like to see people around me get affected. And the Twitter storms and everything sound like a good idea. That did work, and then they stopped working, and I don't understand why they stopped working. I think it was just people were kind of getting lazy. So I don't know myself how to get people like back involved, but if anyone would know a way, it might be a good idea. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Daniel, for that contribution. Does anyone else want to come in on any of that? Any of those points? Caitlin Murphy would like to come in.
Hey, how's things? Can you hear me? Brilliant. So yeah, I'm in school with Daniel. I just want to come in on what he was saying. So the Twitter storms, they worked. They have kind of fallen in recent, maybe the last 2 weeks, for the reason people are starting to struggle, they're getting tired, etc. Emer, I agree with you. We need to go to Instagram. We need to start tagging TDs, as Leah said, or I think it was Mick. We can start getting the ats for Norma Foley, for Michal Martin. That can all be done quite quickly if we all work together. But as Daniel is saying, people aren't cooperating with us, and it's starting to become disheartening. Many of us here on the call are trying to get our school involved, but if we want the clarity that we have been aiming for the last 4 weeks, we need to all come together. There was one hashtag that I really feel like we need to bring that one, as it was a brilliant point that he made. the other one being no clarity, no skill. This week I raised to more fellow peers, and the campaign really
Thanks for that, Caitlin. And I do just want to remind students that I know that you are feeling this way with the Twitter storms and stuff, but they aren't failures. You're still getting thousands of tweets underneath it, and you're comparing it to the first one when there was a huge mood right at the very start. Maybe some people have drawn back for personal reasons and stuff like that, and obviously you're comparing it to that, but you're still engaging with thousands of people, and it's coming up on my trending feed, and I see people tweet about it on my page and stuff. So don't be thinking that they're failures. They actually are successful, maybe not as successful as the first, but you're still getting a message out there, which I think is really important for students to understand. And we do have to use social media to our advantage because of the restrictions. So it's like online protesting, and that's the alternative we have at the moment. I think the hashtags that were mentioned, collaboration, not competition, and no clarity, no skill. I kind of wrote down one here. It's probably because someone had mentioned maybe it's a bit unclear, but no clarity, no participation. Maybe that's just an idea that students can come back to us on in the likes of the group chat and stuff. Sorry, I have a few messages in the chat. Miriam would like to come in for some of the final points now, and then we should finish up. So, Miriam.
I think Curtis asked to speak quickly, so maybe, I don't know if this time for him, but I just want to say that young people are obviously absolutely overworked, and it is a fact that at this point in time the campaign seems to be carried about handfuls of young people, like all of you on the call today, people following on Facebook, people following on YouTube, who are able to a certain extent are kind of driven by the campaign, and to a certain extent able to cope better and lead the campaign, and I think that's very good. And so I completely understand that it could be disheartening that other students are not necessarily behind, etc., but it's probably the feeling overwhelmed and not knowing which direction to take. And this is why we're trying to organize ways to point forward, so that the young people feel that they can be part and they can do something that is going to increase the pressure and achieve change. So if you have for example, the idea of the video, if you had one speaker from each campaign, so let's say student voice, student's choice, then cancel the leaving campaign, then incoming 6 years, I can't remember the names of the other big campaigns on Instagram, but if you had one person per campaign that is recording a message about why they want to cancel the Leaving Cert or get predictive grades, get opening of third level, etc., it's easier to pull a video together that can be shared in our stories on Instagram, that can be shared as a post, that can be shared on Twitter, on which you can tag Norma Foley and other ministers and TDs, and then oh, sorry, is there people talking in the background? I didn't realize because I have my earphones on. So I'll move. And I think that then obviously there could be the hashtags, which if we can't decide tonight, I think that's fine. If people sign up the attendance sheet, we can probably add people in the chats, and then have decide between tonight and tomorrow which hashtags we're using. But I agree that no clarity, no school is good, open third level only is good, cancel the Leaving Cert, no forced Leaving Cert is the one that would have been used before, etc. And I think if we have a different type of storm on Instagram and on Twitter, things can kind of the way that sometimes someone will share a video on Instagram and then it kind of goes viral just from sharing it, rather than so a lot of people who might feel a bit low at the minute and don't really know what to do in terms of moving forward with the campaign might see the video being shared on loads of their peers' stories or Instagrams or whatever, and then we'll share them as well and tag Norma Foley or whatever, and it can have a real good impact. So just wanted to comment on that.
Thanks for that, Miriam. So I don't want to drag it out too much further, but I know that Curtis wanted to say something, and if he still wants to come in, maybe we can take that as the final point. And as I mentioned, and as Miriam mentioned, we can continue on having this discussion in the group chat between today and tomorrow, and decide on what hashtags and send graphics in, and that idea of reaching out to other pages, because we had a couple of pages here and make a video. So Curtis, do you still want to come in and say something? If you do, I think you should be unmuted now, or
yeah. So just a quick point. People seem to bring it up about getting more traditional media exposure, and I'm not sure who brought it up first. I think it was Evan said about some way of getting onto RTE. Now, I think with the midterm coming up, if we were to make a video and we were to get it going, either through getting it trending virally or send it directly in, I think if we could get even only a snippet of that in and get it on the traditional media, it would kind of bring across the point that it would kind of get the point into people's minds more so. If it was to be on traditional media, it would almost make it more like official. If it was there and people could see it, like people who wouldn't even know that students are really against it, that it could really get the attention, and like it could stir stuff up, maybe like change people's perspective of it who don't really think that students are struggling. Because I know that there's some people who just like don't really understand how bad it's getting. So I think that that could be something we could strive towards, and I'm not sure how we go about getting that, but I think that could be an end goal maybe. That's all.
Grand, thanks for that, Curtis. I'm just going to have a quick scan of the chat. Yeah, people are saying that they agree with you. And Curtis, Eric said Curtis mentioned tagging the news outlets, so that could be a good idea, in the video as well. So yeah, good points raised there. So I think we are all done here, and if there's any more, we can, as I said, go over to the WhatsApp and we can add people into that. I just want to say thanks so much for the students that are coming here and playing, like really dedicated and playing a good role. And I think what we need to realise is, like, you are challenging the system, and you are doing that really, really well, and exposing the flaws in education and allowing more people to see that. And we can even see it as the meetings that we're having, the ideas that are coming up that maybe students didn't think about a couple of weeks ago, but now they're more present in their mind and they want to play a leading role within this and, have more equal access. And I think that's really, really challenging to the system. And it is easy to win people over on those arguments. So I have every faith in the campaign and in the dedication of students and the work that you are putting in. And very impressed with the level of organisation that you are doing amongst each other and, other pages as well. So I think you should be proud of yourself for the work that you have done so far, the social media storms, getting graphics ready, getting videos ready, coming to meetings every week, all of that you've never probably been used to before. And, I know there was people mentioning about some of our classmates maybe aren't involved, but you can try win them over again. Don't give up on those things. But at the same time, if they're not involved in it, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep going with it and have in like national connection with other students and other skills, because not everyone here is from the same school, and I think that's really important that there has been this level of collectiveness among students all over the country. So I'm going to stop blabbing on, and again, the sign-up sheet is in the chat. I'll give another minute or so to sign up that if you haven't, and we can move over to the WhatsApp and pose ideas in there and get organised for the week. So does that sound good with everyone? If they just want to maybe give me a thumbs up. And Miriam is just after texting me she wants to come in, so we'll let her have a final point here. Sorry everyone, but off you go.
No, just to get like the students thinking about this, it was raised with like some of the students in the group chats that like it would be great next week to have some sort of art show that could be like a calling for people to send their poems, their films, their music, their whatever they've created around the issue of education inequality, oppression, Leaving Cert, etc., like different ways of passing the message. And then we could do a compilation of like an art show that we share and that could also like trend on social media, Instagram and so on. So that could be, that's something that requires obviously a little bit more of time than like compiling like a quick video with different campaigns. So but I think that could be it's two like very strong positive ideas that we have to have, like first a video of the different campaigns this week to put pressure on Norma Foley, and then next week to have like the art show where like young people can really express themselves through different forms and, you know, boost again like the image of the campaign and really like positively, I suppose, like get the support of like other students that might feel like a bit low, but that will see like this as like a very positive, constructive things, especially during the break where people will have time. So I just wanted to finish on that positive note, saying that like there's loads of support for like new original initiatives that can increase the pressure and push our points forward. So well done everyone for the amazing organization of everything, and yeah.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Miriam. There's been some really good art and videos and stuff that I've seen already, so that would be a really good initiative and like a fresh kind of change from just social media storms, you know. Right, guys, I'm going to let you go because I don't want to keep anyone any longer, and I know people are on time schedules here, so we shall be talking to you in the coming days, and any ideas are welcome. So thanks so much to everyone for coming, and I'll see you next week at a meeting probably. Slán.